Hello and welcome. Like I said in episode 1, it'll take me a while to get my stats up until I can start money making. There are plenty of money making methods out there that doesn't require much skill, but that isn't exactly what I'm interested in at the moment. I'm interested in the methods that will continue to make money and not hit a dead end. Like, for example, non-combat skills. And since 2007 was a reset to everybody, skills actually made money. But then, like you could see in the live game, eventually you stop making money because there's just more supply than demand. And that's a dead end I don't want to get caught in. If I train combat, I can continue through killing bosses. Of course, the boss drops will eventually not be as useful as they were, which results in them being not as valuable, but then it also allows me to go PKing, which was something I really enjoyed in my early years of playing Runescape. So don't feel too bummed out if it takes a while to get started. Okay, so I'm back, and what I did earlier was, this is the recruitment drive quest, where no man can kill this guy, so emphasis on no man. So you have to go to the makeover mage, change into a female, and then you can kill him. So when changing into a female avatar, I lost my goatee. I guess it makes sense, I guess. So the reason I'm doing this quest is it gives some XP, such as it gives Herblore XP, saves me from having to pay to train Herblore. Then there's also the prayer XP it gives me, which eventually I want to get 43 prayer for protect melee. Also, eventually I want to get the Preseliate armor, which is awesome prayer armor. It's like better than monk robes. And then there's also the wanted quest, which gives Slayer XP, and for the wanted quest I need to complete recruitment drive. So heading back to the makeover mage, it seems that when I turn back into a male, I don't get my goatee back. So sadly I have to pay like 3k to get my goatee back, just so that I keep the look I had when I started the game. A lot of these quests are optional. I'll note which one's in the description. This one gets me 1.4k crafting, so I don't have to train crafting as much. And it also gives me 2k gold. Although that 2k gold was more important early on, now you could probably just do law running and make just as much. Also, it's an easy quest point. For those who wish to do coordinate clue scrolls, the hard coordinate clue scrolls, the observatory quest is going to be required. But for those who don't plan to do clue scrolls, well, you could probably just skip over this quest. But it's a pretty short quest, easy quest point. Aside from that, that's about it. You get some crafting XP, which got me from level 12 to 19 crafting. If you plan to do Barrows like I'll be doing, then this quest is pretty much required. It's the Priest and Peril quest. It's used to access the Morytania area. The method I plan to use to get to Barrows uses a few things. One is the fairy rings that I'll use to get to Morytania in the first place. Then from here, I'm going to head a bit south and a bit east onto the boat. The boat does not require any specific quest to use. The only quest is the Priest and Peril quest to access the Morytania area in the first place, and then you merely have to start the Nature Spirit quest to gain access to the Morytania swamp. And as you can see here, I'm still 1 defense and still able to use the boat. So the problem is that if you just stop at this point in the storyline, you can't take the boat up river. But that's fine. I'll be teleporting away to Bang and teleporting back with the fairy ring, run a bit south, run a bit east, use the boat to get back to Barrows. So you can still do this with 1 defense. But since I'm going for like a 45 to 60 defense account, I did the Nature Spirit quest. I got some defense XP from that. Also some crafting XP, which saves me from actually having to buy crafting supplies. If you're looking for some mining XP, the dig site is a very good quest, but the reason I did this was because I wanted to eventually complete Desert Treasure, and this is a requirement for that. So you may as well do this if you're gonna go for ancient spells. There are several, if not many, short and easy quests. The Dwarf Cannon is one of them. It's like a 5-minute quest and allows use of the Dwarf Cannon. Although most people probably won't use the cannon because of the hefty cost of cannonballs, but it's still an easy quest point. I'll most likely make a listing of the short and easy quests that I do in each episode in the description, which will serve as notes of what I've done so far. And this is pretty useful because there are several quests that require a specific amount of quest points, like Dragon Slayer, there's Heroes quest, then there's the Recipe for Disaster for the final boss where you need like 276 quest points. While doing the sequel to the first Elemental Workshop quest, and I'll put an emphasis on this, group questing could possibly be the best thing about this game. Doing quests solo feels kind of like a grind if you don't really care about the lore, but doing it with friends make it like 100% more enjoyable. Now at the time I was doing the Elemental Workshop quests part 2 with my friend Marin. We started messing around with the clan chat and found that if you change somebody's rank while they're still in the friend chat, this is probably patched by now, but then you can make duplicates if you change their rank. From the quest you get some pretty generous XP. It got me to around 36-ish stats, which is pretty good because so far I haven't done any training at all. This is all from just quests. Going back to combat related quests, a few things I wanted to make sure I did at an early level to show that it's possible was Monkey Madness. Well, that's one of them. It's a brutal quest to those without Protection Prayer. With Protection Prayer, it's kind of easy, but I ended up doing it without Protect Melee and, well, around 32 defense. And, well, okay, first time around, I died because I ran out of food. I underestimated how much food I actually needed to get all the way across. So it took about like 20 to 30 minutes of backtracking to grab the quest items I needed. Although usually with questing, I usually almost always get multiple duplicates, because in case you die, you're gonna need it. Sadly, I didn't bank it, so I still had to backtrack the 20-30 minutes, including the time to run through the tunnel. There's a few observations I want to make. I may repeat a few of these throughout the series depending on how often the point comes up, but usually these points are pretty specific. First one is, well, having played this game as a completely new player over the years, then coming back and playing RS07, where I know everything, the game has a few good and bad points. Good side is there is a crazy amount of things to do. Plenty of different paths, methods, options to get where you want. Downside is there are a lot of small and big things that you can do to give yourself what is basically an unfair advantage, especially in PvE combat, like the two-step trick, perf flicking. There's more, but those are the only two I'm going to say for now. One of them is, I'll repeat this a few times, especially when I actually get it, is perf flicking. I'll repeat this when I get 43 prayer for Protect Melee, and to get a prayer that provides 100% protection in PvE combat is quite advantageous. This allows you to fight monsters that would otherwise be extremely difficult, if not impossible, to defeat alone. Now, I said PvE as in player versus environment, also known as PVM. I may use either term depending on my mood, but, well, prayer is quite overpowered, which is why I plan to get it somewhat early on. I did not get it in the Monkey Madness quest because I wanted to show that I could do it without it. Back when I did Monkey Madness, I believe I was still in middle school at the time, but I did it back when there's this safe spot, and I guess I'll mention it later when I'm actually doing the boss, but back then I was doing things, I was trying to get things done as fast as I can so I could just go back to Castle Wars, because that was oddly the most fun minigame I've ever played, even though it's just simply capture the flag. But so since the first time around I was in a rush, I never really explored the area around the boss fight, and there's this trapdoor I found in which when you go down you go to where one of the cutscenes took place, where you're talking to a monkey about, actually I don't remember what it was about, although I guess that's not too descriptive, talking to monkeys. But then if you head to the center, there's also this cool little sage monkey that could teleport you out. But anyway, back to the boss fight. So there was this old safe spot where you just run to the border across the bridge and you just let the minions kill it. And that was the entire fight. You wait like 5 minutes for the minions to kill it, and congratulations, you're done. But in the RS07 server, they changed it a bit where you need to get the last hit on the boss for it to count that you killed it. If a minion gets the last hit, the demon will heal itself, and it'll keep doing that until you get the last hit. So that was kind of weird because it implies that they're aware of the problem, but instead of completely removing the safe spot, they just decided to tweak it a bit so that you just have to get the last hit, which is kind of odd. Because then it just comes down to you wait 5 minutes, wait for it to get low, then you just gotta get the last hit. Now this may sound kinda easy for some, but if you don't have Protection Prayer, it's gonna be a bit more difficult, especially if you don't have high HP, and that's kind of the whole reason I wanted to do this quest while being low combat, so that I could show that it's doable at low-ish HP, as well as no Protection Prayer. So I'll link the method in the description when I get it done, because after about 2 hours I didn't really notice that I had stopped recording, so I have to get my second account Smokey9112 to Monkey Madness, which may take a while because Smokey is still level 10. Until that video is up, I'll leave notes in the description depicting how it's done, which isn't really too hard. So the quest itself doesn't give that good of a reward, but you're able to use the Dragon Scimitar, which is good to train strength with. Then there's an optional reward to gain combat XP, but the downside is if you choose to get the XP, you're going to get defense XP no matter what. So the optional reward isn't really for everybody, but like I said earlier in the video, I'm going for around a 55 to 60 defense account. So since I'm going to get it up that high, I may as well get the XP. Oh, I forgot to mention, during the 2 hours where I was trying to get the last hit on the Monkey Madness quest, somebody died during the boss fight. Unfortunately, the guy who died didn't type anything in the chat for me to add him, so I stuck around for around 10 minutes or so. I guess he lost his sickle to get back there, because you need to run through the entire maze to talk to that one guy to get the sickle back, which is the exact reason why you should always get extra quest items, just in case you die or misplay a step. So some of the earlier quests I mentioned, like the Lost Tribe, the Recruitment Drive, is required for the wanted quest. And the reason for this quest is it gives 5,000 Slayer XP without any Slayer requirements. So that by itself gets me from level 1 Slayer to 21 Slayer. I actually get up to around 43 Slayer with just maybe doing 1 or 2 hours of actual Slayer. And that's how far you can go with just quest rewards as well as non-quest rewards. The last thing I get done for this quest is the Gertrudes Cat quest. It's a really short quest, but the thing I like about it is that you could start raising cats. And since cats are the only familiar in RS07, it's like you make money while just having it tag along with you. So you're not really missing out unless you just have to feed it, which you only have to do like once every 15 minutes. So let the cat breeding begin. As always, thank you very much for watching and have a nice day.